Ashley asked me if I'd write her a song, so I wrote her a song for her awesome show. Her show is cool and it's lots of fun, so get your popcorn ready, everyone. Who will she interview on her show today? The Jonas Brothers or Nick Lachey? It's the Awesome Ashley Show. The Awesome Ashley Show. The Awesome Ashley Show.
Hi, welcome to the Awesome Ashley Show. Today I have two very special guests with me. First, I have Molly Keeley. She's from the Courier, from Biddeford Saco Courier. And I have my little dog, Romo. Before we start the show, I'd like to tell people a little story about Romo. So I decided to bring him on the show today because he likes to follow me when I go to work. He likes to follow me in the car. So I asked Steve, I said, can I bring Romo on the show? So he will join us today while I interview Molly. Hi, Molly. How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm very good. How did you start the Courier?
I've been at the Courier for about 7 years now. I started out as a reporter. I went to school for writing. Wanted to write for a newspaper. And so after several years of reporting, I ended up moving into an editor's position and now managing editor. So I oversee my whole department, which is
That's really
the stories.
Cool. So you're kind of the boss.
I guess it's so weird. I don't like to consider myself a boss, and I think that's what makes our newsroom run really well.
What made you want to become a great stories? And
I've always been good at writing ever since I was a kid. I remember in a social studies class, the teacher picking my essay out of everybody else's to read out loud, and then I thought, oh, maybe there's something here.
So do you get to write stories, or do you just tell people what to write, or do you get to write your own stories?
Most of the time, I assign the stories to reporters, but every once in a while, I write a story. I write them when I want to, so I get to do more of the fun stuff. Or I do serious stories every once in a while too when it's an important issue.
So you get to pick. Do you get to pick the stories that go in there, like the Pacific stories, or?
I do.
Who usually pick? Like, do you say this one's going in there this week, and then next week?
Yeah.
Is that how it goes? And then you assign. Like,
yep.
Do they get to decide who gets to write the story, or do you just assign them and say you're doing this one today?
We have our reporter for the Courier. His name is Ben, and I'll usually say I'd like you to do this story. But he also pitches stories to me. He'll say, oh, I met this person, or I was at this meeting, and I think this will make a good story. Sometimes, for space reasons, I have to hold a story, which means I can't run it that week. I hate doing that because people get excited that their stories are going to be in, and then I hate having to say, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't have enough space. But
now, how do you like find the stories? Like, how does that work? Do you do research online, or?
Yeah, I find stories in so many different ways. I like to joke that I married my husband, Brian Keeley, because of his news tips. He's very involved in what goes on in Biddeford. But from knowing people, I find Facebook to be a really good resource too. Yeah, I'm on Facebook.
I think that's how you guys found me too.
It is, I believe so. And just from knowing people, I grew up in Biddeford, so I know a lot of people around here. So they will often come to me and say, hey, I think this might be a story.
That's awesome. Now, did you decide to put Pets of the Week? Because I think Romo was in Pets of the Week.
He was. That was my thing. I did decide to do Pets of the Week. And it's funny, Brian said, I don't think that's a good idea. And I said, well, just let me do it. I think it'll be fun.
Right.
And pretty soon, I had a list a month long of people waiting to get their pets' pictures in the paper. And
that's
Romo
cool.
and Witten was in there, too, your other dog.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you also put 98 Degrees in there. How did that well work out? Did you do the story, or I don't know who?
That one, I did that. I'm friends with your grandmother online too, and so I actually knew you were going to meet them before you knew you were going to meet them. And so I said, oh, you've got to make sure you get a good picture of her with 98 Degrees because I want to put it in the paper. Because that's a chance of a lifetime, and I know you said you felt like that was a moment of a lifetime. So I like to put important things like that into the paper.
That's awesome.
Community things.
Now, do some people have tough times writing stories? Like, do people come up to you and say, this is hard for me to write. How do I go about writing this?
They do, actually. I usually have them talk to me about the story. I'll say, so what happened while you were interviewing that person? How did it go? And so we'll talk about it. And I'll say there, you know, that's a good lead right there, what you just said to me. Why don't you start there and work from there?
Now, can you tell people about what goes on when they interview people? Do they just meet up at a coffee place and have a microphone or
that's a good question.
Something to...
So we set up an interview. I like to interview somebody in their home. That way I can get an idea, I can get a better idea of what they're like, you know, if they have animals or what their knickknacks are like. Sometimes reporters like to write notes. I feel like I don't write as quickly as I used to, so I like to bring my laptop and I like to type because I can type really fast. But other times people do use a voice recorder and they'll record an interview and then transcribe it afterward and write their story.
Now, do they use their own words or do they use the words that people told them? That's
good. It's actually a combination of both. A good story has quotes from the person, and a quote is a good way to move a story along. But I think you can see each writer in the stories they write. You know, they have a certain type of style. They just, maybe some describe more than others.
Now, do they all have to go to journalism school before they?
You would think, but you know, they really don't. I mean, if you're a good writer, you're a good writer. We've had reporters at the paper who haven't gotten a degree in journalism, and they've worked out really great. So.
That's really cool. Can we show some pictures about the staff that work behind the Courier?
Yes. I sent in, I hope the ones I sent were pretty good.
They were.
Okay, good.
And I put their names on the pictures.
Oh, good. So
people can see.
Oh. That's you and me. That's at my show. I do a Broadway, I'm involved in a Broadway dance company, and Ashley was so nice to come to the show this year. I hope she comes again next year, too.
I will.
Yay. That's Ben Micklejohn. He's our Courier reporter. He started several months ago. You know, only after a few months, he's really involved in the community, knows a lot of people, and has made a lot of connections with the people in our communities. Yeah. Oh, that's my messy desk. Yes, I thought I would take a picture. That's the way I exist at work. That's Doug Worthing. He is in our graphics department, so he makes ads, and sometimes he has a way of like dressing up the front page to make it look really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's Jack eating a donut up front with Ben in the background. Reporters often eat on the go, in our cars,
and
wherever we can get.
Easy to eat.
Yes. That's Frank. He sells advertising for the paper. And that's how we're able to be free, is through advertising.
Nice.
That's Melanie. She's also in our graphics department. She's super nice. She deals with all the craziness on deadlines for us. And there's Mike. Mike fills in for myself and one of the other editors when we're gone. That's so awesome. He actually knows how to lay out the papers. He's a really important part.
Is he filling in for you today while you're here?
No, luckily I'm not on deadline today. So he has to fill in for me in a couple weeks though and lay out my papers. So he's a really important part of the staff. And there's Norman Beaupre. He writes a column in French for the Courier.
That's awesome.
So he writes it in French, and then below it is the column translated in English.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's the open house we had. When we moved it, the building that we're in is the old Pepperell Mill store where they sold linens and blankets and things.
So it's brand new, like this building?
The building is very old, but the inside office is brand new. It's really
awesome.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of openness, a lot of light. Like I said, I do the assignments that I think are fun. So I wanted to go to this event at Dyer Library, and I took that photo. That's probably one of the photos I'm most proud of taking. I like to cover the events that involve animals.
Yeah.
And that's Sandy. She's our office manager. She is one of the first faces you'll see if you come into the office at the Courier, which anybody is welcome to do. And there's Ben again. I took a couple pictures of Ben.
So these are all the pictures behind scenes of what goes on in the Courier, and there's a lot that goes on in the Courier. Now, what if people don't meet their deadline? What happens? Has there been anyone that hasn't met their deadline?
It's happened, yeah. Sometimes, you know, one of the reasons for not meeting a deadline could be that the people they need to talk to haven't called them back. When that happens, we either can't put the story in, or we'll put a story in and have a line that says, so-and-so did not return calls for comment.
Right.
That often looks worse than commenting, so people tend not to do that. But What I do is I edit a lot of community news briefs. Like people send in things about their bean suppers or about their fundraisers. So if a story falls through, I have all of that backup information to put in.
So what's the hardest part about being an editor?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. I'd say I don't think it's hard to remain fair, but I'm always checking myself to make sure
that you're fair.
Yes, that I'm being fair, that I'm giving enough attention to two sides of an issue.
Right.
And because my husband is involved in Biddeford politics and my uncle is actually involved in Saco politics, I always have to make sure to disclose who I am when we write about them. So I'll say Brian Keeley, he's the husband of Molly Lovell Keeley. And actually, one time, I wrote that he's the wife of Molly Lovell Keeley.
Serious?
Yes, it's so awful. I cannot believe I did that. And I can't believe our copy editor didn't catch that.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
Yeah, because doesn't someone like recheck and recheck and check and...
They do, and I laughed. I said, this is so funny, but you probably should have caught that.
Right. So I bet he got a lot of comments after that.
Yes, he did. He did. You know what I did too? A couple months later, I actually introduced myself as his husband. I don't know what my problem. We've only been married for a couple years. Maybe I'm just not used to it.
It's because you guys do everything together.
I know. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Hi, sweetie. I love that Romo's on the show.
I think he's trying to steal the spotlight.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, okay. I'll give it to him.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I think you're such an awesome person.
Thank you.
And it's been an honor to be on the show.
And thank you for doing so many stories about me. And
oh, you're welcome.
I really appreciate it. So I figured it's my time to
awesome. Oh. And
let you be in the spotlight.
Thank you. And look for some photos in next week's paper, too. They might disappear in the show.
Well, thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting Romo come.
Oh, I loved having Romo come.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. That was so much fun.
It was.
Yeah. So it's
Ashley asked me if I'd write her a song, so I wrote her a song for her awesome show. Her show is cool and it's lots of fun, so get your popcorn ready.